Hey guys, hope you're well. This is a bit redundant because you already got an update live with Enri, and I know there's been a lot of consternation. Is it Enri? Is it Enri? I asked him, how do I pronounce it? And he said, well, he's Albanian, so it could be Enri, and it could be something else. So he didn't give me a straight answer, so I like Enri, so I'm going to say Enri. It's a little redundant because you've already seen the live, and maybe you haven't, and you want just me, or you want an even more condensed version of what happens. Again, if you're liking all of this, all of these court reports as I have today, and please do donate if you're interested for the crappy motel, which has been the consternation of great rage and debate on Reddit. So if you want to see more footage of my cesspool, my crack den-like disaster that I live in, show your support. But anyway, so let's talk about Enri. Came in for court. Very simple explanation. Won't take me long to talk about it. Planners outside of Big Blue. Of course, these planners were installed to inhibit protesters, to inhibit their movement, to block their path, and to have another piece of property that Scientology could lay claim, just in case if anybody touches it, removes it, stumbles into it, whatever it might be, that they have this claim to try to take legal action. So the beginning of it was a really complicated affair, where Enri ended up getting this potential charge, a multitude of weeks later after the incident occurred. Enri was trying to communicate with police on the scene. This happened probably, I want to say, about 6 months ago, I mean six weeks ago at this point. And he kept asking for the permit. The permit was never presented. He kept asking for documentation that the planners possessed by Scientology were actually on Scientology property versus publicly accessible property. That was never confirmed. Even the police all essentially threw up their hands and kind of felt like Scientology had no actual jurisdiction with this. So they kind of felt like this was kind of bullshit at the end of the day, and didn't even give him a ticket, I believe, on that day when the incident happened. But later on, he faced this charge. He is facing merely a misdemeanor, not a criminal charge specifically. But with this misdemeanor, he could look at up to potentially 3 years in jail. Now, of course, if this is your first offense and Enri doesn't really have a record, it's an impossibility, essentially, that he'll get any jail time. You know, the worst that probably would happen is he might get put on probation, which is a real bummer, and he'd have to pay a significant fine. Now, Enri can simply plead guilty and cop to that, and he had the opportunity to do that today. He wants to keep fighting because, of course, with each thorn in Scientology's side, they are one step closer to total collapse. And Enri, to his credit, despite the fact that this is going to be now in a more expensive process, this will now be more of a risky process. He could have pledged something and just called it a day and not gotten any jail time, or paid less of a significant fine than he might end up paying. But I think he wants to be part of a pattern. This is, of course, part of it. What will be essentially a losing pattern on Scientology's part. We're hoping at the end of September, beginning of October, Scientology might be 3-0. They've already lost the case against Streets LA versus Joey, the TRO case. I think they are heading towards defeat with Danny. By the way, slight correction. I want to make a correction on the chat. I said Kendrick Moxon's wife. There's threats against Kendrick Moxon's wife by 86 GOP. There's threats on his life. I got life and wife confused. There was one public message saying he wanted to burn down Scientology. That has been confirmed. What has not been confirmed is that I want to end the life. That was privately sent to DOA, and DOA wanted to make people aware of the message and broadcast that he was not supportive of it. So I wanted to make that slight correction, not the end of the world, but something that's important to do. So what happened today? Obviously, he didn't plead. He got a court-appointed attorney who was kind of had no idea what the hell was happening and didn't like the shenanigans. Guess who showed up? The Sherrod Brown lookalike. The Sherrod Brown lookalike, you already guessed it. The man with the moxie himself, the celebrity guest. You know, to me, he is more of a celebrity than Tom Cruise. The guy just turns me on. We're talking about Kendrick Moxon. And he showed up with his lackey, the girl Jennifer, as he has in the past. So Moxon and lackey were yet again there. I asked him for an interview, and he coldly stared me down. Of course, very personally affected and hurt by this. I really thought I could get an interview with him. So Moxon was there. Why the hell is Moxon there? Because the whole thing is really peculiar, because Enri is facing a charge. It's the city versus Enri, right? It's not a sexual assault case where here's victim is affected by your so-called crime versus the defendant. This is the city. So what would Moxon have anything to do with this? It is very clear that Moxon has a relationship, perhaps with even the city attorney. Not only did Moxon and his lackey Jennifer show up, Moxon opened the little door that divides the public area that the public's allowed to sit in into the area where the judge is, and where the stenographer is, and where the bailiff is, and where the other door is to where you have to get reprimanded. Moxon confidently strode into that area, communicated with three people, one of them being the city attorney of Los Angeles. Fun fact, the city attorney, Heidi, sadly that's my mom's name, is under investigation for a myriad of corruption issues. And I even said to Enri, phase 2, guys, 2025 elections, is we're going to have to look to see if there's a primary opponent. We got to support them, and we got to protest all of her events. So watch for that happening in the next year. So what's now? This is simply an arraignment. Here's the problem. What also happens, he has a stay-away order. Now, the court-appointed attorney said this is essentially automatic. This is essentially pro forma to get a stay-away order from a location if you're doing vandalism. Who knows? Somebody else will have to do the research for that. Yes, so a stay-away order at least until 2 weeks from now. So at least for 2 weeks, Enri is not allowed to protest at the big blue buildings. You see a pattern here, guys. What can they do after this? They start with a stay-away. If there's a guilty plea, if they get a conviction, then they can issue a temporary restraining order and convert it into restraining order. So again, guys, there's something incredibly thematic here, where even if Scientology knows they have a losing case, they feel like they can scare these protesters, issue them a warning, but also tie them up in terms of expense and tie them up in terms of time, and then also keep them away for as long as they can if they're an effective protester like Enri has been. Look at what he discovered with the manhole, with a lot of situations. His engineering skills have really allowed him to remark that Scientology is harming the immediate environment and vicinity that they lie upon. So he's an effective guy. He knows how to analyze things and bring a unique skill set of knowledge that simply other people don't have. And I realize I've been having the radio on the whole time. My apologies. Hopefully you can't hear it. So, you know, they're trying to do that with Streets LA. That did not work. Streets LA is back in action. They're trying to do it with Danny. Surprise, surprise. They are trying to do it with Enri. But Enri is, I think, headed back to the Midwest. Well, Northeast. What, I don't know what you call it. I'm a New Yorker from New York City. So we New Yorkers tend to call Buffalo the Midwest, but he's heading back over there, but he will be back for this court date. He's going to try to appear via Zoom. He was unable to get that to happen this time around because that's not an option, but he'll have an in-person appearance in about 2 weeks, and I have the exact, I think it's August 29th, don't quote me on that, but it's some point in August, late August, so I will certainly be there for that. And yep, thank you again for all your support, all your words of encouragement, and I will see you bright and early tomorrow for the abusive, for the scamming, for the pathetic, for the incelicious Zero Dark Tony versus Solomon. So stay tuned for that. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, guys.